Welcome, beloved hearts, into the loving embrace of the divine. I would like to invite you to bring your awareness to your heart, where we can truly connect as one. I am Katrina Armstrong, and I stand before you today as a testament to the power of the divine. I embarked on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth, all of which has birthed the alchemical movement that is Divinity in Action, that I am ecstatic to share with you here. Allow us to guide you through the wisdom of our esteemed leaders and uncover the secrets of the universe to unlock your true potential, as I had done in my life when I embraced the Christ consciousness and ascended into higher expressions of my soul potential. I'll share with you the teachings and wisdom that have helped me to transcend from my earthly bounds and realize the true expression of my soul. I'll be joined by some of the most compassionate and authentic spiritual leaders worldwide who also experience divinity in action. Allow us to share our insights and experiences. I invite you to join me on this journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth. Together we'll break free from past programming and conditioning and fully embrace our true selves. Join me in welcoming Judy Wilkins-Smith. Judy is a highly regarded organizational, individual, and family patterns expert, a systematic executive coach, trainer, facilitator, thought partner, and leadership conference and motivational speaker. She has 18 years of expertise in assisting high-performance individuals, Fortune 500 executives, and legacy families to end limiting cycles and reframe challenges into lasting breakthroughs and peak performance. Passionate about visionary leadership and positive accelerated global change, Judy explores critical dynamics in personal and organizational systems and the points at which they intersect to create growth and success. As the founder of System Dynamics for Individuals and Organizations, she collaborates with individuals and corporate decision makers to implement innovative whole system design elements, ensuring balance, appetite for excellence, passion, and sustained success. She is the author of Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint, a powerful guide to transformation through disentangling multi-generational patterns. Wow. Judy will be speaking to us about decoding your emotional blueprint, this powerful guide to transformation through that disentangling of those multi-generational patterns. She has also provided for you a free gift, which is a PDF, an ebook, which provides this outline and overview of what family constellations are and how they work. You will find this just below here. Whoa, what a beautiful, beautiful opportunity we have today to be with you, Judy, to tune in to the emotional blueprint, to look at our ancestral, what I would call inheritance, but those connections that we have into the ancestors and the patterns of those. In my work and in my life, I've seen how these have impacted and influenced me in so many ways. And I have so many people also coming to me that are interested in this, that want to know, where is my connections and why am I this way and why is this showing up? So I feel that you're going to provide us so much understanding into that. And I look forward to diving in here together.
Well, let's have some fun.
Absolutely. So I know that you work with decoding the emotional blueprint. I'm curious, what is that? What is our emotional blueprint?
Okay, so your emotional blueprint is what happens as the result of all of the events that have happened in the lives of many who came before you, and all of their thoughts, feelings, actions, inactions, things done or not done. All of that comes together and cascades down through the generations all the way to you. So you sit with this great big blueprint. Now, epigenetically, we already know that if there is a significant event, and it's a significant event for you, but you also get global significant events.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's not the event, it's the decisions we make about the event that will affect our minds and bodies. So it's very much with us. So it's a terrible, or an event happens, we either say it's terrible or amazing. You can have two people in an accident, both get paralyzed from the neck down. One says my life is over. The other one says my purpose has just begun. They're both right, because the meaning that you make becomes the truth. Only it's not the truth, it's your truth, and you can change that anytime you want to. So you have this whole emotional blueprint that comes down, and all of the patterns of thoughts, feelings, and actions and mindsets. And what it's asking you, especially if you've got a bumping one, there are two. So if you've got one that's really difficult for you, you're sad, mad, frustrated, stuck, whatever that is, that's often a multi-generational pattern that's asking to be seen, given its place, and allowed to stop. It served its purpose. Because very often what began as a solution in one generation becomes a problem in the next. So somebody in the generation says, hoard all of your pennies, stuff them under your mattress, keep the money there. Why did they do that? Well, because in the Great Depression, if you needed money, you better have it with you because the banks didn't have any. But that's not a solution for now. Now you come along and you hoard all your money and stuff it under the mattress, and it's not getting you any interest. You're not investing it. It's not growing. Worse still, you probably have a dreadful relationship with money and see it as the opposite of godlike, which, by the way, it really is not. Or you see it as a commodity instead of a relationship and a spiritual flow. And now you're stuck and you wonder why you're stuck. That pattern has come all the way down to you. But why? It's asking you to see it, give it its place, and then write the chapter that only you can write, which means you get to start a new pattern. You get to create new emotional DNA. New patterns of thoughts, feelings, actions. And if you do that mindfully and consciously, and you use an elevated emotion, and you align head, heart, gut, and get to that state of coherence, then things start to change very fast for you.
Wow. Woo, I'm really feeling your 18 years of experience here. And there's so much in what you just said. I'm tuning in. One of the first things was like meaning becomes our truth, like the meaning that we place on it.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's big. You know, for me,
It's
see
huge. It's everything. It runs the show. You say to yourself, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. Do you see how stupid I am? And the body reacts and those stress hormones start to run around. And now it's your truth. Now, anytime that comes up again, you're like, no, don't do that. We know what happens and you re-trigger. But if you sit down and have a look at it and go, okay, so I did that. What can I learn from this? And how can I make it a strength? You know what? I'm a really learning being. You know what? God sent me a gift. I'm going to see what's in here. This is amazing. Now, all of a sudden, you're cascading other hormones, the hormones of love, and your body's going, this is cool. And you're going, I'm not bad. And the body goes, yes, it's your truth. Because when the brain tells the body a story that the body can believe, that becomes the truth in your world.
I'm curious, where does when we look at our soul connection or our connection, you know, to God, to source, and like, if we think of like ultimate truth, like for me, I see truth as like resonance or the coherence you were talking about when the mind and the gut come into coherence. I wonder, like, when we make that choice to shift that and we decide that this meaning is like, wow, this is actually a gift and I can make this choice. You know, when we get to that place of coherence, when that truth is there, how does that affect, you know, you spoke a little bit, or you mentioned emotional DNA. Like, what does that do there? What is emotional DNA?
It does all sorts of things right there, because now you've made new meaning, which means you're also going to look, and there are interesting things, you're also going to look at your history very differently and go, that awful father of mine, oh, he didn't have such a good time growing up. My goodness. So compassion starts to replace anger. And now you look at him and you go, given what he went through as a kid, am I not lucky? He's an amazing person. So now you're rewiring backwards. And as you look forwards, your kids don't have to go through that anymore. They look at a mom who's happy and healthy and able to make good choices, and she teaches them, hey, when things are tough, let's sit a moment and see what we want to make this mean. And all of a sudden we've got kids going, well, I'm not a victim. I don't need to be somebody's victim. I can do something about this. So it's rewriting it in many, many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so that blueprint is changing. And if you look at it neuroscientifically, you're rewiring the brain. And the minute you rewire the brain, you're rewiring the body too.
Mm.
So now everything starts to align. And instead of being that victim or feeling victimized or stuck, the problem with this work is that you begin to realize very quickly that being a victim is something that you've set up.
Yeah.
Nobody did it to you, whether it came from a really bad set of circumstances or not. You have a choice. And people want to fight with me about those sorts of things. And they say, no, there are big issues like what about slavery and what about the pogroms and what you have a choice. Even in that, how will I act? Even in the Holocaust, you see people who survived that and they come out very differently, bitter, enlightened. It's your choice. And it doesn't always mean they're easy choices, but the more you make the choice and the more you understand that the universe, God, the guides, whatever you want to call it, is in service of you. It always has been and it always will be.
Wow.
That's when things change.
And now I'm curious when we identify those patterns and we're like, I know this is here. How can we break free of those? How do we break free?
It's not even about breaking free. It's about acknowledging it and giving it its place. And you'll hear me say that again and again, because in systems, anytime you exclude something or someone, they or it will keep repeating. So great-grandma was terrible. We don't talk about her. But why is little Elsa over there so much like great-grandma? Well, because if you excluded her, it was going to show up in someone else until you give great-grandma her place. Doesn't mean you've got to run around and hug her and love on her, but she has a place. And with that place comes all the clues and gifts you need to be able to make the choices that are really, really good. So in a sense, we were talking the other day, and in a sense, we have our genealogy. Genealogy tells you where you belong. That's genealogy 1.0. Genealogy 2.0 looks at all of the events in those areas that you came from, all the big events, all the famines and the pogroms and the Holocaust and the slaveries. And it looks at all of those and cascades down to you, which then becomes my work, which is genealogy 3.0. Let's look at those patterns and understand how have they colored your thinking, your feeling, your actions, and what are they all asking you to do differently, so that we evolve not only ourselves and our connection to God, but we evolve the entire system. If you really, genuinely want to make a difference in the world, this is what you do. You become responsible for yourself. And on my website, you'll see it says, how big are you willing to be? And people say to me, isn't that a little egotistical? And I go, no. The day you agree to that is the humblest day of your life. It's the first day you truly agree to be responsible for growing the biggest version of yourself possible, and now you're in service of the universe.
So what I'm hearing from you, and I know everyone listening here are ready to play and to be as big as they can be. You know, it may be a little bit of a challenge, like maybe they're feeling like, oh, I can feel I'm being called out, right? That this is my time. And so those that are feeling that when they're really being called forward to be, you know, the biggest that they can be, where is it that you find they are struggling at and they're patterning with their ancestors?
So just something to add to what you said. Transformation isn't for the chosen few. It's for those who choose it. It's a very conscious choice. Where do they get stuck? They get stuck. If you have a look at it, if I were to say to you, take 2 pieces of paper and put them down and think about your relationship with money. On the one side, on the right-hand side, you're going to have all of the things that you think about money that keep you stuck. on the other side, you're going to have all the things you think about money that you would love to have. And I say, put those down on the floor and then find your place between the two. If you find that you're closer to all of those things that you hear in your head, like money is greed and only terrible people have money and it's love or money and love of money is the root of all evil. No, it's not. But anyway, if you're gravitating towards that, you're listening to the voices of the ancestors and the limiting patterns of the ancestors. If you start finding yourself moving towards the other one, which is, I'd really like to have a lovely car, a beautiful home, be kind to others, use money wisely, possible if I had a whole lot to be able to help the planet, and you're so excited you can't stand yourself, that's the chapter that only you can write. Now you're starting to get into co-creation with God. God never said go be small. God never said don't have abundance. In fact, exactly the opposite. Now you're daring to get past all of those old voices and into the voice of abundance. And for me, very much the voice of God. I always tell people money goes home at night and it has cocktails with God. Money angel.
Oh, I love that.
The money angel says to God, I thought you said this was going to be tremendous. People would love. I've been sat on, squandered, reviled, used for wars, really used in bad ways, hidden. Where's the love? And God says, oh, I forgot to tell you. It's when they learn to really see who you are and what you can do that they would love you.
Wow, I'm really appreciating this imagery here and how we can apply that, to our individual selves, to all of these other circumstances and situations. So when we look at, coming to these patterns and writing that out, and when we start to see like, whoa, there's a lot that the ancestors are speaking to me.
Very much, very much. In fact, that's one of the reasons that on my website, I have the meditation of the mother and the meditation of the father. And those are 2-hour-long meditations that actually take you all the way back into your ancestral line and then bring you back so that you can complete a pattern that you're struggling with and then stand in your own shoes. Ancestors are really big gifts. They're really big gifts. When we reject our parents or reject our family or source, it's not that it makes us good or bad. It's simply that we shut off information that we really, really need. In fact, some of the top people I know and work with as executives will tell me, I'm now a CEO and my father still doesn't see me. It's his fault I'm that. And I said to him, yeah, and it's his fault that you're a CEO. You better go say thank you. Because you wanted to prove something, you started down a path that when you do something really good, it's because of them. In some way, it's filtered down to you. So be aware you owe thanks.
So what I'm hearing and in what you're saying, in my own experience, a lot of times, I communicate with ancestors when people show up, and it's a lot of times they actually show up with gifts. They're like,
they always show up with gifts.
Yeah.
It's like when people come to me and they say, here's my junk pile, or here's my train wreck. And I go, you don't have a train wreck or a junk pile. There are gems in that pile and there's a gift in that wreck. You're just not looking.
Wow.
It's always a gift. There is never not a gift.
So when in your work, how is it that you help people see that gift?
I use their words in service of them. So it's often words and then feelings and actions, and I do constellations. So for people who don't know what a constellation is, it's a 3D version of what you hold in your mind. So let's suppose you came to me and you had an issue with relationships. And I said to you, so when did that start for you? We have a history. When did that start for you? What was happening at the time? Describe the difficulties you have. And we'd go through a whole series of questions. And then I would probably say, so who else in your family has that pattern? And if you don't know your family, it's not a big deal. We work with you and what you have. But let's suppose for this example, who in your family has that pattern? Well, I don't know. Dad has struggled. Mom has struggled with relationships. So I would say to them, pick a representative for mom, for dad, for you, and for relationships. And now I want you to set them up in relationship to each other, and let's just see what we see. And so sometimes you might find dad, the representatives, dad's looking out the window, mom's close to you, you two can't get dad's attention, relationships is sort of hovering around. And I'll say to them, so what's going on with dad? Well, he never really came back from the war. Okay. So then I say, so tell me about mom. Mom's good. She's here. She kind of takes care of business, but she and dad's so distant. So tell me about her mom and dad. Well, Grandma sort of kept the home fires burning. Grandpa was a salesman, so he was all over the place, and he was pretty tired when he came home. And you see, we've already got a pattern. Men go missing, or men are not able to be present. So we'll look at that, and then I'll say to her, so for you, the fear is you're going to find someone who's also not present. Yes. So actually, it's really not your fear, is it? Your mom had that. Your grandmother had that. Maybe your great-grandmother had that. They're all looking at you and saying, come on, do it differently. And then very often you'll kind of see them jolt and they go, you mean I don't have to do that? No, you really don't have to do that. Can you give it back to them and ask them to watch you and have their hands at your back? And you can kind of sort of see the weight dropping and they go, oh, I can do this differently. Yep. You get to look at a man and keep a man and find one who's present. And so it's rewiring that whole concept of if it happened to all of them, it's going to happen to me. No.
Wow. I get this image when you speak about constellations of setting in the middle of lots of different stories or patterns. And this feeling that I get in me is this like, wow, none of this belongs to me.
Absolutely. Or it doesn't belong to me directly, but what it's showing me is what's happened all the time. And it could belong to me if I agree to perpetuate the pattern. I have a choice.
Yes.
Right now. Am I going to make this belong to me and then my daughter? Or is it time for me to say, watch me, I'm doing it differently. For all of you who couldn't, I will.
Yes.
And now what belongs to me is I look at the women, I acknowledge what happened for them. I look at the men and acknowledge what happened for them. And I look at me and I go, I can be present and I can choose a man who can stay and who can be present. Okay. New patterns.
Wow, that feels so empowering. It feels like this opportunity, well, to choose, but also to acknowledge, one, to accept that, wow, all of this came here.
Yes, from all of this came me. I'm a change agent here, guys. Here we go. And if you see this in person, it's because we're employing multiple senses. So they're seeing it, hearing it, speaking it, walking in it. They get that they achieve that state of coherence and that aha moment. And you can watch the body switch and you can actually see they're beginning to have different thoughts as well. And often by the next morning, because I usually do 3 days, the next morning they come in and go, what happened?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How incredible. That must be really fulfilling. And I know that one of the things you're passionate about is visionary leaders.
I'm passionate about visionary leaders. I would say two things, visionary leaders and human potential. It's genuinely not about how smart you are. It's about choices you make. Visionary leaders, yes, we need some.
Yeah. And I know here in Divinity in Action, the summit and those connecting in, we have a lot of visionary leaders that are seeing and have visions for the world, for change, for opportunities. And what I'm hearing through your sharing is like how much we have from our lines, from our ancestors that helps us step into that.
And we've got to make the journey big. People keep thinking they've got to make it small or everybody's got to be the same. You can't be the same and you can't make it small. Your journey is your journey and your responsibility is to grow it as big as you can. I have a lot of people who come to me and say, yes, but those rich people. And I go, those rich people have created all the new things that you wouldn't have even thought of. They've pushed barriers. They've widened the envelope. You may want to pay attention and then see how you can expand the barriers. We need to not demonize abundance. We've got to stop.
Ooh, I love this conversation. And with all of those that are tuning in right now that have big visions, that are being called out to put the divinity in them into action. When we look at abundance, what is like a common pattern that you see happening? You know, I know you spoke about money and how we look at money as being this huge thing. You know, when we look at our own lines, I know it's all about us making the choice and the meanings that we're putting to things. So what is a message that you would have? Because it feels
around abundance.
Yeah.
Quit pretending there's not a lot. Just quit. There's more than enough for everybody. And the more we grow the possibilities and the abundance. Stop pretending. Really stop pretending. Yes, there are people who get into dire straits. In fact, most of us have been in some sort of situation at some time. That's when you find out, are you going to give up or are you going to dig your heels in and move forward? And sometimes it's difficult. When I started doing this, it was right after my father was killed. I did not particularly want to do anything, but I also knew that if I didn't make smart choices, we'd be in a really bad situation. And I can remember, so for anybody out there who thinks it happens overnight, many times sitting in the bathtub crying and going, how do I get this to work? So many how do I's. And it was put one foot in front of the other and don't play small. Do not play small. And it's always about being the biggest version you can. And that may simply mean if you're somebody who's really ill or really stuck, the biggest version of you is to get better. Now to someone else, they go, that was your getting big. It may be huge, huge, but go big because goodness, I'm trying to think who the gentleman is. The E-Myth. He's one of my favorite guys just for this quote. Michael Gerber, I believe, who wrote the E-Myth. And he said, it's not that your dream is too big. It is that your dream is too small and it lacks the fuel to get you all the way to the finish line. If you have a dream, dream big, be passionate, commit, don't wuss out. Don't look and say, well, if God wanted me to have it, it would be here. No, God expects you to jolly well put your 2 cents worth into. He will send you all the bits and pieces, but you better be awake, you better be aware, and you better stop complaining. So one of the things I say to all of my clients is quit whining, start shining. And if you show up, you'll grow up. I've literally had times, I had a time where I was in South Africa. I flew out to teach there and I was so sick that everything in me was going, you cannot teach. I taught from a bed, but I taught because you don't give up. You keep going.
Wow, I love this. And when I'm reflecting on how many times in my life that did not make sense from my upbringing, did not make sense from, it's like, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm showing up here. And even if it's uncomfortable, even if I'm shaking, I'm doing it.
If you're shaking, you're doing something really good. That's like when I did the first Disney event that I ever did. I have a great passion and love for Disney because the guy knew what getting into the soul was all about. He did. And so I wanted to do, and I now do, events at Disney because I want people to understand Disney isn't just a commercial thing. Any fool can see it that way. It is deeply soul-rooted. Deeply soul-rooted. And so what I do is I do one every year. I'm doing one this year on Money DNA. And it's a 4-day and we go down to Disney World. And so we work from 9 until 5 and then we play from 5 until about 9. And the first time I did that, Disney is not fooling when they want you to, if you want to do an event with them, they immediately get into, well, good, it's going to cost you this much. And by the way, you have to put the deposit down up front.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there going, oh. So the first time I did that, I will tell you, I shook. I probably shook for the first 1, 2, or 3. Because it was such a stretch. It's still a stretch, but I know when I go down there and I watch how people change, when they truly grasp the essence of Disney World and how it can work with the soul, and they start to feel themselves getting bigger, it's worth every single shake that I ever had.
Whoa, I'm already like right now, I'm feeling this shifting happening. When we look at Disney and we look at how commercialized, all these ideas that we have about it, all of those. And I'm sure this shows up for all of us in different ways. And what I'm hearing from you is just being aware of what meaning.
Oh, the meaning. Yes. When I walked into Disney the first time ever, I cried for a week and everybody kept saying, you're at the happiest place on earth. What's wrong with you? And I kept saying to them, you guys don't get it. This is what can happen when somebody puts their mind to something and takes it all the way and doesn't just take it all the way for himself, wants that families and people will come in and go, wow, and really be shocked and moved and stunned in ways that we often forget to be shocked and moved and stunned. They have various shows that they do. If you listen to the words, those words are very, very carefully written. People who do that are operating at very different levels. There is a Disney movie, Encanto. You want to see all the family archetypes? They're right there, right there. And they have a song, which if you've seen it, I think you have, called We Don't Talk About Bruno. That's the synonym for we don't talk about this in our family, we don't talk about that, and we don't talk about the other. So they exclude him. And if you remember, nothing comes together until the excluded one is brought back.
Yes. Yes. I loved it when you said that.
Yeah.
And it's so, so true. And a lot of times people do talk about like removing the blocks, right?
Yes.
Or, letting go of this. And it's like, okay, yeah, we can let it go, but we have to fully accept it. Right?
You have to, and you don't let it go. You actually give it a place. Now, again, in Encanto, by the way, she talks 3 times about family constellations.
Oh, wow.
Actually says, Mirabelle says, this is my family constellation, which of course blew my mind. I'm sitting there going, about this? What? But if you look at what she does, she goes searching for all of the pieces and the sand is pouring in and she reaches for the last one and gets it because she has to have it. The pieces of the puzzle. So Disney's talking to you in many ways. Every single person belongs, and that's the tenet of this work. Everybody has a right to belong. If anybody's right to belong is ever excluded for any reason, someone in a later generation will show up and represent that. In Kanto, we have to have all of the pieces. We must have all of the pieces. We must include Bruno. And by the way, the cracks in the foundation are simply cracking because they need to realign and they have to grow that tree again. And now the other person who's excluded in Encanto is the grandfather. They don't talk about him much, the one who stays behind. Abuela, the grandmother, is excluded in a way because her whole journey is not spoken about. She doesn't talk about that. So there is so much that's not spoken about. And yet, when it comes together, if you look again, I know I didn't even think about using the movie, but when you look again, Mirabelle is the only one who can't unlock the door to her room. The little boy who's standing there also knows you cannot exclude and we must have the elders. And he says to her, walk with me.
Yeah. Whew. Wow. There is so much in that. I'm right now, as you're speaking, just feeling that rippling out for everyone listening and feeling that how important it is that we are not excluding anything, that we're embracing, we're inviting.
And if you feel like you don't belong, there is a very important thing to recognize. It is literally impossible for you to not belong in your family.
Ooh, wow. I'm feeling the depths of that when I feel into, those that have been called out maybe to be in service. And, maybe it puts them in travel and they find themselves not as connected to family and maybe questioning that now. I'm experiencing a lot of that in the spiritual communities.
So here's what I would say to them. Sometimes it looks like you're leaving others behind, and that can be painful. You're not. All you're doing is walking some steps ahead. And when you get there, the first thing you're going to do is invite them to come. So you don't not belong. You're expanding the belonging.
It's huge. That's so huge. When we start making these changes, when we start shifting, the emotional DNA, we're operating differently. And
very differently.
Definitely feel like, we don't belong anymore. And it's so beautiful the way that you described it, to acknowledge you're just going steps ahead. You're inviting a new way.
And you're expanding the system, because the bigger you can go, the more the system has to tap into. You really, expanding is so important, but don't ever feel like you don't belong. The other piece is many people doing this feel a little bit like they have imposter syndrome. No, they don't. They've got pioneer syndrome. They may not have the answers, but they're going in search of the answers. No imposter syndrome.
Wow, that's a powerful shift in meaning, Whoa. Yeah, it's so strong right now. I feel the ancestral fields, and in my experience, it feels like almost like it's speeding up a little bit. Like there's so much coming in, and it's coming in a lot faster than
I think so. I think this is right. I think this is also why we see almost a lack of civility, not just in the country, but in the world. It's as though we have this opportunity to be awake and be aware, and there's an opposition to that. And yet, if we stay awake and aware and loving, then even the opposition has a place. And that's something we cannot forget. The problem with taking sides and saying, but you're wrong, and what you're thinking is wrong, is we then do exactly what I warned against, which is we begin to exclude. You cannot. It doesn't matter how much that's 180 degrees different from what you believe. You need to understand that what's coming in is also saying, I have a place. And what is that place and what is that gift?
Ooh, I'm deeply taking this message from you that it's so important that we're including rather than, pushing things out. And
cannot exclude.
A lot of people speak about, what's happening on the planet as bifurcation, that things are splitting. And my awareness and my consciousness just talks about things unifying. It looks like it's not mine.
I don't think it's splitting. I will say, I did say to somebody that the other day, in a moment of annoyance, I think we need 3 planets. One for the ones who don't want to evolve, one for the ones who are working on it, and another one for the ones that think they're getting somewhere. But that would be exclusionary, so it doesn't work. No, what I've found, especially when I'm doing systemic work in constellations, is if I have a skeptic or if I have somebody who's really troublesome or somebody who just wants to be a pain, I like them because I know that they're drawing an awareness for me to something that I'm not looking at. And I need to be looking at that. So when we say all this color is this and all this color is that, all we're doing is excluding. Okay, so you're all this and there's place for that. You're all this and there's place for that. I hear it as well when I hear people say those old white men, and I go, those old white men created the country you're living in. A little bit of thanks would be really, really helpful. What could you learn from them? Yes, what can they learn from you? But what could you learn there? Even if it's how to not.
Yeah, right.
Something, how to not is a great gift. If I watch somebody crossing the road and getting smacked, I should say thank you very much because I don't want to do that and have the same experience. Thank you. I see that if something's coming towards me, I should probably not do that.
Wow. It's been so powerful for me to be here with you in this decoding of the emotional blueprint. And to feel this and to be leaning into it. And I resonate so greatly with inclusion of things coming together, of really honoring and appreciating those experiences. And I feel like that's something that we develop, right? As we're looking at the meanings that you're bringing forward, like our meanings become our truth. Ooh, how aligned is this truth really to who we are and our coherence?
At the end of the day, do I look at the day and go, this was a good day? I did a good job, because that's the other thing we don't do. We don't know how to also say, hey, you, this was good. And if we don't do that, it's one of the other things that's super important. If you cannot accept a compliment, you're shutting people out of your world. You're telling them they're wrong. And the only thing you know how to do is plot a very flawed graph, which means you can only be sad.
Wow. Oh, you're taking me back to my grandma right now. And she would tell me, to receive from people, if it's a compliment, if it's something, because you're denying them a blessing. You're denying a blessing.
You're denying a blessing? Absolutely. And you're also saying to them, you're not good enough to belong in my world. Are you sure you want to do that?
Wow. How powerful. I'm actually feeling a little bit of emotion in the space right now, just feeling that like, oh, how many times have we done that? How many times have we denied that? And how much more wants to flow into our lives? How much abundance and joy?
Absolutely. I have an African gentleman who doesn't know how many places he's traveled with me. Because when I worked in South Africa, that's where it hit home for me. I worked in South Africa in a teaching hospital. And this particular guy would come to my lab because I was doing tests. And the one day he came in, little African gentleman, and he said to me, I'm going home today. And he had an orange in his hand. And he said to me, this is for you. And I thought, he's going home right out into the country. He needs this vitamin C. And so what I said to him was, take it home with you and eat it. And when you eat it, think of me. And he looked at me and he said, am I not good enough to belong in your world? I have never forgotten that.
Oh, wow. Ooh. Oh, powerful. Thank you. I'm feeling that deeply, deeply in the hearts of all of those that are here right now, and that belonging and the receiving and the power of this work that you're doing of consolation and of looking at those patterns and really making a new choice to play big.
Oh, yeah, to play big. And we do play. It's a lot of fun. There are lots of tears. There's a ton of laughter.
What a gift. What a gift you are. What a gift your work is. And truly a gift for you to be here with us right now, to remind us of this and to really call us out, to play big. Every
single one of us needs to be doing something. Every single one.
Wow. Oh, I feel it. I feel it. And it's lighting me up. And it has me just looking at all of my connections and all of my family. And wow, what a gift. What a gift it is. This looking at emotional DNA and being here together. I would like to open here just for any last thoughts or any messages that you have for those that are joining us here.
Yeah, you are a remarkable life if you're willing to see it. You don't get to play small and say, I want to make a difference. You get to make a difference and make it as big as you can. I think more than anything, anytime you're tempted to be unkind, I saw the most beautiful t-shirt the other day. Beautiful t-shirt. Please be quiet. You have no idea of the journey I'm on or what I'm undergoing. Just be kind.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us and for that beautiful message. Really vibrating through my heart and my body. And
it was such fun.
Oh, so much love to everyone. And may you take this message and receive it all. There was so much richness here in this conversation and so much richness for you to take out into the world. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been so nice.
What a gift. All right. Bye for now. Oh, beautiful hearts. Let's take a moment here to breathe into yet another powerful message from our Divinity in Action alchemical movement. I hope you found the teaching shared in this episode to be enlightening and empowering. Also, that you will take space for yourself to work with what was offered for your discovery and growth. Once again, I invite you to unlock your divinity through the wisdom of our speakers and to harness this beautiful energy to your benefit that will increase abundance, clarity, and freedom in every aspect of your life. By experiencing divinity in action, we will break free from past programming and conditioning and fully embody our true selves.